Here is Immortal Moments for explanation. Friends, like videos and subscribes to our channel. Tales of Herding Gods Episode 100 Explanation. So let's start our explanation. After a moment, the great shaman that went to warm the wine came back. The other great shaman swirled the wine, and when it was clear, he poured a bowl and placed it respectfully in front of Qin Mu. "Is it poisoned?" Qin Mu asked with a pleasant expression. The two great shamans from Roland's Golden Palace immediately said, "We don't dare." Qin Mu laughed out loud. "I'm a divine physician who has learned from Jade Face Poison King. If you guys try to play poison in front of me, that would be quite a joke." The two great shamans laughed with him. Qin Mu's expression sunk and pointed at the great shaman who had warmed the wine. "Drink it." The expression of that great shaman changed drastically, and he started trembling. Qin Mu's face turned even darker, and he repeated coldly, "Drink it." The corners of the great shaman's eyes twitched as he picked up the wine bowl with trembling hands to drink 2 mouthfuls. He smiled. "No poison." As he said this, his body trembled and shriveled up like a deflated balloon. He became thinner and thinner until only his skin was left. Covering the skin was his clothes, and there seemed to be things wiggling in them. A bunch of insects chewed through his skin and flooded out, crawling in all directions. They then incinerated and turned into ashes. The face of the other great shaman turned ashen. Without a change in expression, Qin Mu rapped the table. "Serve me another bowl." The great shaman serving the wine had a tearful expression as he said, "There's poison in the wine." "Can't poison me," Qin Mu said indifferently. "Continue serving the wine." "Where are the dancers?" "Call them. Songs and dances liven up the mood." The great shaman immediately poured a bowl of wine and summoned the dancers, continuing with the dance and music. Qin Mu ate the dishes and drank the wine as he enjoyed the songs and dances, clapping when he was entertained. This banquet lasted for quite a long time, and the sun was hanging late in the west when he waved his hand and made the singers and dancers fall back. The wine was highly toxic and contained a kind of shamanic poison. It had venomous insects that specialized in eating souls and corporeal bodies. However, Qin Mu was still fine after drinking nearly the entire jar of wine. Such a disappointment. Qin Mu rose, leaving the table in a mess. All the food and wine had been eaten and drunk by him, and it was more than even a dozen lords would have been able to eat. However, he didn't seem full as all the wine and food had been dissolved by spirit returning pill great supplement technique. "You've lived through so many lifetimes, 11,000 years. What a pity that you never took your own path, always liking the path of others, jumping from one to another. After jumping here and there, you obliterated your own acute spirit." Qin Mu shook his head. "I waited so long for you, yet you still don't dare to show up. What a joke. I thought you would be my opponent, but I didn't count that the older you get, the more cowardly you get. After I took the upper hand, you didn't dare to pick another fight with me again." The great shaman from Roland's Golden Palace was unable to make heads or tails of what he was saying, not knowing who he was talking to. What's the need for dreams when one doesn't dare to struggle? Qin Mu walked outside and chuckled. "It's better for you to just go home." "That's right, since it's your treat, foot the bill before leaving." He walked out of jade fragrance floor and left. In Green Bamboo Garden, the great shaman was befuddled and waved his hand to dismiss the singers and dancers. After a moment, Pan Gong So walked out from the shadows with a gloomy face while stained in blood. "The sword skills of human emperor," he said in a low voice. Those were actually the sword skills of human emperor. Even though it could have been a deception, I don't think I saw it wrong. What that junior used were the sword skills of that human emperor, which were fused with Eternal Peace Imperial Preceptor's sword skills, as well as Rulai's Mahayana Sutra combined with 9 Dragons Monarch technique of Ling family. He had combined all these techniques. Qin Mu had fused so many techniques and divine arts together, and they were all top-notch techniques and divine arts, so Pan Gong So's Dao sword had been countered when they exchanged moves, messing up his mind and plans. Therefore, he no longer dared to fight head-on with Qin Mu. He didn't know how many moves of the human emperor's sword skills he had learned. The human emperor of the previous generation was an extremely strong practitioner, so he didn't dare to take the risk. In the previous generation, many incidents happened and there were many figures that were close to gods walking around in the world. He was one of them. Heaven Knife was also one of them. Other than them, there were numerous other glorious figures, but none of them were as dazzling. Human Emperor was the most dazzling star in the previous generation. Other than him, Pan Gongso had seen another human emperor, one of the generation prior to that man's. It was some 800 years back. The human emperors had appeared in his long life again, and every one of them was abnormally dazzling, overshadowing his radiance. Various human emperors could be traced even all the way back to his first lifetime and even before that. There were human emperors walking in the world since a very long time ago. He was once curious about this incomparably ancient inheritance. The techniques and divine arts of every human emperor were different, and every one of them was absolutely astonishing. There were even quite a number of saints that appeared once every 500 years that ended up as human emperors. He had wanted to get in touch with this inheritance, but since he died a few times under the hands of human emperors, he vanquished this thought. And right then, he saw the inheritance of the previous generation's human emperor in Qin Mu's skills. The previous generation's human emperor had vanished for a long time, and rumors said that he's been dead for 300 to 400 years. Pan Gongso had seen the sword of this human emperor before and knew that he was one of the strongest people in the previous generation. He was the strongest sword. After seeing it once, the sword light would be forever imprinted in one's heart, making them unable to forget it. If not for that, Pan Gongso would have never panicked and messed up, getting heavily injured by Qin Mu and losing the upper hand and escaping into the river. He had then went into the ground, but the youth's green heaven's eyes discovered him, and he used his bamboo cane, iron hammer, and pig-slaughtering knives to land fatal blows on him, adding injuries on top of injuries. Because of that, there was no way for him to turn back. His attainments in escaping arts had been cultivated to their extreme. The escaping skills of Little Jade Capital were definitely the first-rate escaping arts in this world. His soul was extremely strong and close to the level of God, so Qin Mu wouldn't be able to kill him. In addition, the cultivation of his previous lifetime was still in his body. Even though this body was very weak and couldn't withstand such terrifying strength, it wasn't everything. If Qin Mu forced him to his limits, the explosion of his power would be enough to kill the youth. After he escaped, Qin Mu knew he couldn't make him stay and so didn't chase after him. Instead, he went back to Jade Fragrance Floor and forced him to not dare to reveal himself, delaying him curing his injuries. If that ancient organization learned that the human emperor is not yet dead and still has a successor, things will definitely get bustling, Pan Gongso muttered in a low voice. The great shaman that had served Qin Mu wine immediately went forward and smiled. "Prince, how are your injuries?" Cult Master Qin had not paid just now. "I don't need anyone to know I lost, even though I've lost many times." The great shaman was slightly stunned and suddenly felt his soul becoming stiff as if something had chained it up. He couldn't help revealing fear. The next moment, his flesh and bones melted and his soul disintegrated, leaving a pile of clothes on the ground. Pan Gongso walked out and footed the bill while thinking to himself, "Luckily I met that organization quite a few times and know how to contact them. I'm afraid that I won't be able to stay in the capital city anymore. This cult master Qin will definitely inform Chancellor Ba Shan when he goes back and not let me have a place to fit in. However, if I want to hide, Chancellor Ba Shan won't be able to find me." He walked out of Jade Fragrance Floor and into the shadows, never appearing again. Qin Mu returned to Imperial College and found Chancellor Ba Shan. "Pan Gongso is indeed the old monster of Roland's Golden Palace. I injured him, so I'm afraid he won't appear again." Chancellor Ba Shan was startled and cried out, "He left? If he cast a spell on you in secret, how bad would that be?" Teacher Heaven Knife didn't manage to kill him and had no choice but to hide his name. "What about you then? The brat's cultivation is still in 6 Directions realm, but soon enough, he will break through into 7 Stars realm, then Life and Death realm. With only 10 or so years, I'm afraid he'll return back to Divine Bridge realm. At that time, you'll be dead meat." Qin Mu smiled. "Why doesn't senior brother stay by my side? That way, he won't dare to make a move. Chancellor Ba Shan frowned and said, he knows my name and will be able to kill me 10 years later as well. It won't do, I can only solve the problem temporarily by staying at your side. I need to find and kill him to prevent further troubles. When he was done, he summoned the green bull to leave in a hurry. Qin Mu returned to Scholar's residence. While looking at his room, a sense of dread washed over him. If Chancellor Ba Shan doesn't find Pangong so, won't that brat stare at me every night? How will I be able to sleep like that? It simply won't do, I have to find that guy. This matter should be better if it was handled by the disciples of Heavenly Saint cult. Unless he went back to Roland's golden palace to hide, he won't be able to escape my eyes and ears. Just as he thought this, a steward from Scholar's residence walked over and said, Academician Qin is already a divine arts practitioner, you should be moving to divine arts residence. There were other stewards helping Chen Wanyan and Cai Yunxiang to move as well while saying, you have also succeeded in breaking the wall so must also leave Scholar's residence to move to divine arts residence. Chen Wanyan and Cai Yunxiang saw Qin Mu and came over in a hurry to thank him. They said, if not for Cult Master's 6 Directions computational cannon, we wouldn't have been able to enter 6 Directions realm so fast. It was just a little thing, Qin Mu said humbly. Chen Wanyan had a weird expression, and Cai Yunxiang suffered a setback. To Qin Mu, it was a little thing, but to them, it was a huge help. Like this, did she still have hope to get rid of this cult master to become the female cult master of Heavenly Saint cult? Scholar's residence, I'm leaving. Chen Wanyan waved to the scholars that had come to send him off and smiled. Whoever is willing to be the big brother can go fight for the role themselves. Yu Qinghong and Monk Yun Q had no interest in that as they looked at each other before smiling. You guys can go to Divine Arts residence first, we'll be there in 2 days. This position of the big brother should be handed to the other junior brothers and sisters. Qin Mu and the rest walked towards Divine Arts residence while the dragon Chelin followed behind them. This lazy dragon was determined to follow Qin Mu everywhere he went, never letting go of this meal master. That's right. Qin Mu recalled something and smiled. The Crown Prince will be leaving the capital city in a few days' time and he wants me to follow him to send disaster relief. If you guys are free, you can follow me to gain some experience. Wanyan, you have already become a divine arts practitioner and your abilities aren't weak anymore, so you'll be able to become the incense master of our sacred cult with another few more years of experience. Chen Wanyan felt his scalp crawling and became unwilling to follow him out. He said, every time we go out with Cult Master, danger always springs up all around and we are always escaping for our lives. I think I'd rather not go. I just cultivated to 6 Directions realm so I still have to strengthen this realm. Cai Yunxiang's eyes glowed brightly. I'll go. Just as Qin Mu wanted to say something, another steward from Divine Arts residence came over and said, Scholar Chen Wanyan, the Crown Prince has appointed you to follow him out of the capital city. Other than you, there are a dozen more scholars from Divine Arts residence that will be coming as well. Chen Wanyan's face immediately turned bitter. Going out with Qin Mu to gain experience was definitely a chore. The last time they had gone to the southern borders for experience with Qin Mu, they had encountered 9 Spectres sect, Corpse Immortal cult, and Great Mountain sect summoning the dead to massacre a city. Then they encountered Dutian Devil King wrecking everything in Heaven Wave City before going to Daoxiang City to join the battle to quell the rebellion. Chen Weiang had never been through so many near-death encounters in his entire life. After returning to the capital city, he had spent quite a long time to recover from the ordeals. When he went to Qingmen Pass for experience, he fought fiercely with soldiers from barbarian Di Empire, but that was still soldiers fighting soldiers and general fighting generals. In no way was it similar to gaining experience with Qin Mu. When out with him, sects would wage wars against each other and even summon devil gods. Upon reaching Daoxiang City, there were even strong practitioners of cult master level everywhere, with hundreds of strong practitioners of celestial being realm and life and death realm as well. When Chen Wanyan recalled the incidents he experienced with Qin Mu, he couldn't help shivering. He had also heard about the encounters Qin Mu had faced after that, how he was chased by countless experts when he went home to Great Ruins for New Year. He then stirred trouble in Great Thunderclap Monastery and even got involved with Tao sect and Great Thunderclap Monastery, trying to murder the emperor, saving both the emperor and imperial preceptor before coming back to the capital to kill Crown Prince Ling Yuxia. If it was Chen Wanyan who was forced to experience all these incidents, he would have most likely already died 100 times. He was determined to never go out with Qin Mu again, but the Crown Prince actually ordered him to come. It was the same as receiving a death penalty and waiting to be executed. He didn't know if this sacred cult master was a jinx, causing disasters everywhere he went. Qin Mu saw that his expression wasn't too good and consoled him, "This journey won't be dangerous. Crown Prince Ling Yushu is from our Imperial College, so we're old friends, and we have a good relationship as well. He is leaving the capital city to bring disaster relief and is bringing many experts from the Ministry of Works. This journey isn't to quell any rebellion, but to check on all the factories and clear the snow mountains from the snow disaster. Or maybe it's to build bridges and dams. It's something along those lines, so there won't be any danger." Chen Wanyan had a bitter face as he said, "I sure hope so." Cai Yunxiang was slightly disappointed on the other hand. No danger. The three people followed the stewards to their respective rooms in Divine Art's residence. The stewards had arranged for them to live close to one another as their three houses were all lined up. Qin Mu said to Chen Wanyan and Cai Yunxiang, "I won't know for how long we will be away, so you guys should find some divine arts to cultivate." Chen Wanyan's gaze flickered, and he suggested, "Yu Qinghong and Yun Qiu will be breaking their walls in the 2 days and will become divine arts practitioners. Cult master, we should enjoy blessings and endure misfortune together, so we should bring them along to enjoy the blessings together." Qin Mu smiled and said, "You're right. Before the Crown Prince leaves, we'll bring everyone who manages to cultivate divine arts." Chen Wanyan's spirit was roused, and he left with excitement as he thought to himself, "If we're going to die, it's only natural that everyone should join in on the fun." Cai Yunxiang blinked innocently and stretched a fair white palm in front of Qin Mu. He took out his book tablet and placed it in her hand. Cai Yunxiang gave an elated cheer and immediately left. The book tablet of Divine Arts residence could only allow one to go to the 2nd level of floor of Heavenly Records, while Qin Mu's book tablet could access the 3rd level, so she borrowed his book tablet every time she wanted to go to floor of Heavenly Records. There was also Hall of Heavenly Works, which was similar to Heavenly Devil Cult's Craftsman Hall and Heavenly Works Hall. The latter one mostly researched how to manufacture mechanisms, refine spirit weapons, construct ships and bridges, pave roads, and manufacture vehicles. All of these were the works of the scholars from Hall of Heavenly Works. Imperial College was founded by Imperial Preceptor and Heavenly Devil Patriarch together, so many halls and teachings were copied from the halls of Heavenly Devil Cult. This was one of the reasons why Great Thunderclap Monastery, Tao sect, and the rest of the righteous sects didn't really like Eternal Peace Empire. When the scholars of Hall of Heavenly Works graduated, they usually went to Ministry of Works to assume a position. This time, Crown Prince Ling Yushu brought mostly scholars from Heavenly Palace Courtyard, while the others were all officials from the Ministry of Works. Most of the officials from there came from Hall of Heavenly Works, so were considered classmates of Qin Mu and the rest. The government minister of the Ministry of Works had the greatest authority, while the next in line was the assistant minister. This position was assumed by Heavenly Devil Cult's Heavenly Works Hall Master. The Ministry of Works was then split into 4 departments. Department of Works managed the city and civil engineering, Department of Land managed the distribution and measurement of land, Department of Harvest managed the vegetables, fruits, and grains, while Department of Water managed the hydraulic engineering. Most of the ministers in these 4 departments were the Hall Masters and Incense Masters of Heavenly Devil Cult. Many of the officials were their disciples, while the other half were scholars that had graduated from Imperial College. Heavenly Devil Cult and Imperial College occupied nearly all of the official positions in the Ministry of Works. One needs to put what one studies into practice, so the people from Heavenly Works, craftsmen, vegetable, rain, farmer halls were all talents that the Ministry of Works needed. Because of that, they were all able to enter the Imperial Court. When Qin Mu saw the officials which Ling Yushu had brought, he couldn't help revealing a weird expression. Most of them were from his Heavenly Devil Cult. Chen Wanyan, Yu Qinghong, Yun Qiu, Wei Yong, and Cai Yunxiang hurried over. Chen Wanyan's face was badly bruised by them, but he had a very pleased expression. When Cai Yunxiang saw the officials Ling Yushu had brought over, she also couldn't help revealing an astonished expression. She secretly asked Qin Mu, cult master, is the crown prince part of us as well? Qin Mu's heart was slightly moved, and he asked Ling Yushu, Your Highness, have you heard about Heavenly Saint cult? Ling Yushu didn't reply to him and instead said, everyone's here, so let us be on our way. The order Father has given me this time is to inspect the geography of all the prefectures in our empire, check the irrigation works, city defense, measure the soil, and check on the vegetables and fruits after the natural disaster. Once we reach a place, I'll be asking the officials questions while the rest of you will check on the hydrology, city defense, soil and rations, verifying their words. All of the officials acknowledged his orders. Ling Yushu continued, no matter which prefecture we go to, if the hydrology or city defense needs adjustments, if the officials are taking over the land by force, or there are insufficient ration, all of these must be reported as they really are. The government minister of the Ministry of Works said, Your Highness, the world is huge and there are so many prefectures, I'm afraid that it will take us 2-3 years to inspect everything. Ling Yushu smiled. That's why I found a quick ship. It should be arriving soon. This ship is the fastest ship in our empire and it's called Cloud Chasing Ship. It's said to have superlative craftsmanship and you guys can take a look at its pill furnaces when we board the ship, they are very wonderful. Furthermore, it's still an iron shell ship. Many of the officials from the Ministry of Works had weird expressions as they coughed one after another. Some of them even looked at Qin Mu. Qin Mu also had a weird expression. The ship that the Crown Prince was describing seemed to be Fan Yunxiao's cloud-chasing pirate ship. Back then, Qin Mu had constructed 5 of such treasure ships, and 3 of the huge ships belonged to Heavenly Devil cult. Regarding the 2 smaller ships, one belonged to Qin Mu while the other one was given to Fan Yunxiao. The ones that constructed the treasure ships were most of the officials from the Ministry of Works that were present here. Maybe the emperor of the next dynasty might just be a heavenly king or guardian of our heavenly saint cult, Qin Mu thought to himself leisurely. Crown Prince Yushu is really fated with our heavenly saint cult. Heavenly Works Hall Master said secretly to Qin Mu, Cult Master, Incense Master Fan found me a few days ago, asking to change to a bigger ship, which left me bewildered. But now it seems that Incense Master Fan had been doing business with the Crown Prince. Qin Mu didn't know whether to laugh or cry. Ling Yushu waited for a moment and a flying ship with wooden grains slowly flew over. The ship gradually descended and stopped in front of the mountain gate of Imperial College. Fan Yunxiao and the rest of the bandits were dressed prim and proper as they stood on the bow of the ship respectfully. Your Highness, Cult Master Sacred Teacher. Ling Yushu immediately turned around to look at Qin Mu. Cult Master Qin, this ship is the property of your heavenly saint cult? How expensive, how black-hearted. Qin Mu consoled him, Your Highness might not know that they were bandits in the past and so are a little ruthless and lacking in conscience. Ling Yushu was startled. When everyone boarded the ship, an imperial scholar came running over at this moment and boarded the ship while saying, I'm late. It was a charming young man. Ling Yushu immediately hurried forward and asked in a low voice, Sister, why are you here? That charming young man was none other than Ling Yushu dressed as a male. She smiled and said, You didn't allow me to come, but I asked permission from Father and he gave me permission to come. The one that herds cows. She threw Ling Yushu to one side and ran to Qin Mu's side. Her eyes curved up. Do you recognize me? Qin Mu hesitated for a moment. Fat. Sister Yushu. Ling Yushu's expression changed from anger into delight, and she punched him in the chest with a smile. If you dare to say it, I'll kick you off the ship. Ling Yushu saw her punching Qin Mu in the chest and was aware that even though the punch seemed heavy, it was actually very light. He couldn't help grunting. This sister of his was starting to listen less and less to him. Cai Yunxiang came to Qin Mu's side and looked at Ling Yushu. She gave her a smile and didn't say anything, lowering her head to play with the dragon Cheline. Ling Yushu looked at her back, and her gaze flickered. She said in a low voice, The one that herds cows, let me go change my outfit. Ling Yushu immediately hurried over and said, Sister, male outfit is good, the male outfit is very good, you look especially good in it. Really? Ling Yushu nodded heavily. The flying ship rose into the sky and drove 300 miles to Auspicious Prefecture. This place was located down the river, 2,000 miles east of the East Sea. Ministry of Works had once constructed a huge bridge that crossed the river, stretching across the 20 miles of mud river. Hundreds of people looked down from the ship and saw that the center portion of the huge bridge was missing. There were numerous parts of the bridge floor and bridge pier missing, which should be due to the severe winter from the snow disaster freezing the river surface. This would have caused an ice mountain to form on the river and slid down, crashing into the huge bridge. With the torrential river water, the current was very swift, so fixing the bridge wouldn't be easy. The treasure ship descended in Auspicious Prefecture City, and the Magistrate immediately came forward to welcome Ling Yushu. Ling Yushu said, "Magistrate, dispatch your divine arts practitioners to follow the Assistant Minister of Ministry of Works to fix the bridge." The magistrate immediately mobilized the divine arts practitioners in Auspicious Prefecture. Several hundred of them followed Heavenly Works Hall Master to the river surface. Qin Mu and the rest also came over. Just as they were thinking about how they were going to repair the bridge over such a rapid current, they saw Heavenly Works Hall Master give a shout to the divine arts practitioners behind him. His magic power poured out and the water of Mud River instantly rose upward, forming an arc in mid-air. The river continued flowing 5 to 6 miles in the air before landing back into the river. In the area of 5 to 6 miles, there was no river water nor any damp patches on the riverbed. The water in the mud had been drained out by the hundreds of divine arts practitioners. Everyone smelt the stones to connect the bridge. Heavenly Works Hall Master gave an order and numerous divine arts practitioners with vermilion bird spirit body came forth. Great furnaces were propped up on the riverbed and stones were thrown into the great furnace while fire birds flew around as the divine arts practitioners executed their divine arts to smelt the stone in the furnaces into lava. Then, another group of officials from Ministry of Works came forth to control the shape of the lava with their magic power, cooling the lava down into stone pillars. After a moment, stone pillars were erected upright from the riverbed. Other officials from Ministry of Works came flying from a mountain at the side, transporting stones that were already sliced, laying them down orderly. 2 hours later, the huge bridge was reconnected. Qin Mu's heart trembled, and he exclaimed to himself, "This is a miracle, a superlative craftsmanship." Once the huge bridge was connected, the numerous officials from Ministry of Works flew up and surveyed the surroundings of the dam. Qin Mu saw many people holding stakes and stabbing them into the dam, one stake every 300 yards. Beside each stake stood a person and someone erected a huge bell on the heart of the river. With a resounding clang of a bell, the stakes trembled and the people beside them leaned in to listen to their trembling. What are they doing? Qin Mu couldn't help being bewildered. Ling Yushu walked to his side and said, "This you wouldn't know, but Mud River frequently flooded its surroundings back in the day, thus Imperial Preceptor ordered the Assistant Minister of Ministry of Works to govern it. A lot of financial resources went into it, so Father was very angry and asked why the Assistant Minister had spent so much money and on what he had spent it. He was told that a copper wall was erected on both sides of Mud River. The copper walls were 2 inches thick and 2 feet tall. They were laid out along with the dam and stretched for 10,000 miles. The copper walls were covered with rune markings, so to check for any hidden cracks or thinning of the walls, they could just ring the bell. The sound would activate the rune markings to resonate together, and the sound waves could be used to judge if there are any hidden cracks or loss in thickness." Qin Mu looked toward Heavenly Works Hall Master who was busy and praised, "What a great idea." Sai Yunxiang also came over and said, "Emperor almost executed him because he spent too much money." Ling Yushu took a glance at her and said, "The Assistant Minister had spent too much money. In the recent years, he has manufactured a flying ship, decorated pleasure boats that sail in the sea, ships that runs on land, flywheel carriages, smelting factories for the ore mountains, arms workshops, and manufacturing plants in various regions. Various cities even had a revamp which included the sewers under the city, the paving of roads, the cloud chariots used to invade cities, the stronghold at the borders, and even machine manufacturing. I wasn't born then, but I heard from second brother that the amount of money spent by the Assistant Minister had made Father and all the princes, concubines, and Empress Dowager tighten up their waistbands until they turned green from starvation. The empire's treasury was emptied out in a short while and the official salaries were owed them for a few months. Cai Yunxiang smiled. What happened next? Ling Yuxiu sighed. After that, the smelting factories were popularized, and all kinds of flying ships and decorated pleasure boats were sold to merchants. The manufacturing plants continuously produced goods, and before 2 years were gone, the empire's treasury was filled to the brim. A few more treasuries had to be constructed to hold the money, thus father was glad he didn't kill the assistant minister. Ministry of Works is the best at spending money, while the next best spenders would be the officials of the water department. They constructed irrigation works and transportation in various regions like water-drawing chariots, flood-discharging lakes, all kinds of dams and bridges, and opening canals. They spend money like flowing water, but they also improve the quality of life for the common people. Cai Yunxiang blinked and said, "It seems like it's always the assistant minister and the officials that are spending the money, so what's the government minister for? Seems like all the work is being done under the orders of the assistant minister Shan Yushin, while the government minister seems to not be doing anything." Ling Yuxiu also blinked. The government minister supervises their spending. Cai Yunxiang gave a shallow laugh. The government minister should be placed to supervise them, yet the emperor isn't reassured, am I right? After all, the assistant minister and these officials are all people of heavenly saint cult. The emperor knows they are hall masters and incense masters of heavenly saint cult, so he isn't certain about them. Ling Yuxiu's gaze landed on her body. Junior sister Yunxiang seems to be very considerate of heavenly saint cult. Cai Yunxiang smiled sweetly. This little sister is untalented, I'm just the saintess of heavenly saint cult, so I naturally have to be considerate of them. Cult Master Qin is the cult master sacred teacher, so he is also concerned about this area. As the saintess, the questions I ask princess are also the questions cult master is concerned about. The two girls stared at each other with wide eyes. Qin Mu ignored them and looked into the distance. He saw the officials of Department of Water and Department of Land checking the land and irrigation works. In the meantime, the Department of Harvest was checking on the fruits and vegetables, thus he walked forward. Cult Master, before the yellow autumn crop can be collected, they will be attacked by pest insects. The official of the Department of Harvest was the incense master of Farmer Hall. He dug around the soil for inspection and picked up a couple insect eggs while speaking to Qin Mu. Even though the winter was very cold, these eggs weren't frozen to death. In some 3 to 5 days, when the weather becomes warm, these eggs will hatch. Since most of the vegetations were chopped down and burned by the victims of the disaster during winter, the insects will start to eat crops, since they'll have nothing else to eat. It's best to be on guard early to prevent insect damage. Once they hatch, they should be killed immediately. Qin Mu asked, "Incense Master, how can insect damage be prevented? Have the experts of sword skills stationed at these cultivated lands, or experts of spells with needle spells? Otherwise, we could also let experts of venomous insects come forth to release their insects to eat the pest ones." The official from the Department of Harvest stood up and patted his hands, dirt plentiful on both his body and hands. The disciples of Sword Hall, Spell Hall, and Venomous Insect Hall can all come out to gain experience. Qin Mu nodded and invited Fan Yunxiao over. "Brother Fan, pass down my orders for 12 disciples from Sword Hall, Spell Hall, and Venomous Insect Hall each to come here." Fan Yunxiao called a bandit over and told him to send the order. The Department of Water was rectifying the irrigation works, cleaning out the sludge that had accumulated in the aqueduct. They also replanned the waterway to make it more convenient to water the cultivated land. On the other side, the official from the Department of Land was measuring the land. He took out heaven measuring rulers, and with his vital qi, the rulers opened up from their overlapped state and became longer and longer. On the rulers, the marked scale of the measurement appeared, and an imperial scholar recorded the numbers, clacking on an unusual abacus formed by his vital qi. Meanwhile, the assistant minister brought everyone from the Department of Works to fly into the sky and survey the situation of the roads in various parts of Auspicious Prefecture from the sky. They recorded down which parts of the roads were destroyed before going forth to repair them. Shan Yushin is a capable man. Qin Mu exclaimed to himself. The officials from the Ministry of Works of Eternal Peace Empire had a methodically arranged way of handling things, and what they were doing indeed benefited both the country and the people. In the city lord's manor, the magistrate of Auspicious Prefecture reported the situation, and Ling Yushu listened for the entire night. He then summoned the official registrar to check the various records and was so busy that he didn't even sleep for a moment. When it came to the second day, Ling Yushu and the magistrate of Auspicious Prefecture were both slightly exhausted. Just as the crown prince walked out of the city lord's manor, the government minister and assistant minister came over. Assistant Minister Shan Yushin handed him a few scrolls. "Your Highness, the problems regarding the irrigation works, transportation, as well as vegetables and fruits have already been handled. Only the problems under the Department of Land requires Your Highness to handle them." Ling Yushu was astonished and cried out, "So fast?" Shan Yushin said, "After Your Highness finishes reading, you can get ready to kill people." Ling Yushu had a grave expression. "Are the acquiring of lands that severe?" Shan Yushin nodded. Ling Yushu called the magistrate of Auspicious Prefecture over and placed the scrolls in his hand with a solemn look. "Don't go to sleep yet. I won't sleep, and you shall read these with me. We will read them as we capture and kill the people. Those who should be captured will be captured, and those who should be killed will be killed. In these unusual times, we will have to hand out severe punishments." The magistrate of Auspicious Prefecture had an ashen face. Qin Mu summoned Chen Wanyun and the rest. "Your task is here. You guys shall follow the officials to capture the people later." Chen Wanyun muttered, "Cult master, didn't you say it would not be dangerous? To be able to acquire lands in the times of chaos, these people will all be tyrants of these regions. The strengths of the influential families are no joking matter." Qin Mu smiled. "You guys are experts from Imperial College, elites of the Empire, so how could you be scared of the tyrants in these regions? Wei Yong, Yu Qinghong, and the rest couldn't wait to make their moves." Not long later, the crown prince and the magistrate passed down their orders to capture the people, so Wei Yong and the rest immediately followed the officials and left. They only came back in the afternoon, all covered in blood. It was evident that they had gone through several fierce battles. Ling Yushu spent 2 days to settle the problems in Auspicious Prefecture, then continued to head east. On the journey, they managed the problems around Mud River as well. One day, they came to River Prefecture. This place overlooked the sea to the east and was far from the capital. Their waterways were developed, and they had a huge port. The merchant ships here were not only connected to all the ports in the world, they were even trading with foreign countries and had relations with the countries overseas. Everyone was already familiar with the routine and went to do their own inspections without any instructions from the assistant minister. After settling the tasks in River Prefecture, Ling Yushu could see that everyone was exhausted and said, "It has been hard on everyone, so why don't we take a few days break in River Prefecture before setting off?" Everyone cheered. Qin Mu was pulled over by Ling Yushu to stroll down the street. River Prefecture's trade and commerce are flourishing, and they have many interesting items from foreign countries. "Let's take a look at the fair." "I'll go too." Cai Yunxiang followed after them, and Ling Yushu took a glance at her while thinking to herself, "Vixen. Little hussy," Cai Yunxiang thought with a face full of smiles. Sparks flew from the gazes of these two girls, but Qin Mu didn't notice anything. There were indeed numerous unusual and strange toys in River Prefecture's fair, but what attracted him the most weren't these strange items, instead, it was the foreigners. He saw numerous foreigners wearing strange and different clothing, and their appearances were different from those of the people of eternal peace. There were even some that were cyclops. They only had a single eye at the heart of their brows, and it was grown vertically. There were also 4-armed and 2-headed humans. He even saw a few maidens from the sea tribe that was gorgeously dressed. However, they had 8 legs like an octopus and walked quickly. When he looked at them in detail, he could also see gills beside their ears. "They come from the sea," Cai Yunxiang whispered to Qin Mu. "They are merchants of the sea tribe. I've heard they have founded a country under the sea." Qin Mu was astonished. The items that the sea tribe was selling were also very strange. He stopped in front of a blue coral tree which was automatically giving off water vapor while a huge ball of water was wrapped around it. Within the water vapor, there was a girl that was 3 inches high, riding a seahorse and singing a folk song whose words he didn't understand. After that, couple more maidens riding seahorses came down from the tree and began to circle the coral tree with some men, dancing and singing together. This coral tree actually had small tribes. Cai Yunxiang and Ling Yuxiu were also entranced by it. Right at this moment, a slender and tall girl in a long dark green dress came forward and looked at that blue coral tree, exclaiming in admiration, "What a strange species, Xiaohong, don't you think so too?" Qin Mu tilted his head and saw a red-colored jade earring hanging from the fair earlobes of that girl. Suddenly, that earring stretched itself and revealed itself to be a small red snake, opening its mouth to hiss at Qin Mu. Long Jiaonan. Qin Mu was astonished and wanted to pull out his sword when the woman smiled. "It's best if Cult Master Qin doesn't make a move. My Xiaohong is of 7 stars realm and can swallow all 3 of you with a single mouthful. Cult Master, my father would like to see you." Qin Mu's scalp turned numb as he said solemnly, "Old Dragon King is here as well." Long Jiaonan chuckled. "My father is known as the Dragon King, so how could he have no power in River Prefecture? However, all thanks to Cult Master, our Dragon Rider sect got eradicated, giving my father and I no other choice but to hide in the East Sea." Cai Yunxiang blinked and said in delight, "Congratulations Sister Long in capturing the Heavenly Devil Cult Master and Eternal Peace 6th Princess. Since I'm not needed here, I shall take my leave first." Long Jiaonan sneered, and the little snake suddenly swam towards Cai Yunxiang, stretching out its tongue to lick her neck. "The eldest daughter of Cai family, the Saintess of Heavenly Devil Cult, your worth isn't any inferior to that of Eternal Peace 6th Princess. Did you think I didn't know who you are?" Heavenly Saint Cult was a large family, and the Cai in Cai Yunxiang's surname meant to manage, to control. Ever since Heavenly Saint Cult was founded, Cai family was in charge of managing the cult's skills, inheritance, wealth, and propagation. Because Cai family was extremely important, the Saintess of Heavenly Devil Cult would most often come from Cai family. She would be its head, and to some extent, the importance of Cai family would even be higher than that of the Cult Master Sacred Teacher. Granny Cai was like that before, and Cai Yunxiang was the same after. Therefore, Long Jiaonan naturally knew Cai Yunxiang's worth. This time she caught the 6th Princess of Eternal Peace Empire as well as the Cult Master and Saintess of Heavenly Devil Cult, making her quite pleased with herself. However, she was still very careful and removed the Dao Tai sack from Qin Mu's waist as well as the spirit weapons on Ling Yuxiu's body. She then stretched her hand out and groped around Cai Yunxiang's body. Cai Yunxiang chuckled. "Sister Long, don't grope me. There are no spirit weapons on my body since I'm walking down the spell path." Long Jiaonan sneered. She took her hairpin and said, "Spell faction? I see you're an expert on sword skills as well. The power of this hairpin isn't little." The pig slaughtering knives, iron hammer, and the rest of the weapons on Qin Mu's back were also removed, while the brush, ink, paper, and inkstone that were hidden in his sleeves were also ransacked. However, when Long Jiaonan saw that these items were all ordinary and not spirit weapons, she stuffed them back in again. She whistled, and the small red snake tunneled around the clothes of the trio to search for more spirits weapons. Long Jiaonan was an experienced person, so she absolutely wouldn't leave them any chance to make a comeback. The most crucial point was that Qin Mu hadn't brought the dragon Qilin along when he was going out for a stroll with the 2 women. At this moment, the dragon Qilin was still sleeping in the city lord's manor. "Let's go." Long Jiaonan, who was dressed as a female, was charming. As she embraced Qin Mu's arm, there was even a hint of shyness in her expression. "My boat is by the sea, and it has already waited quite a while for Cult Master, Saintess, and Princess. When the Crown Prince realizes what happened, the 3 of you will already be in the East Sea." Qin Mu smiled. "Sister Long is really thoughtful." Long Jiaonan whistled, and the small red snake slithered onto Qin Mu's body and hung itself on his left ear, spitting out its forked tongue as it hissed. Long Jiaonan smiled gently. "No matter how sweet your mouth is, it'll be hard for you to escape my grasp. Don't try any tricks. Xiaohong can take your life by just opening his mouth." The 3 women and the 1 man walked out of the fair and met Chen Wanyun, Wei Yong, Yu Qinghong, and the rest of the scholars. As the two groups came face to face, Long Jianan gave a smile and whispered to Qin Mu, "Act natural, don't force me to kill you and your friends." Chen Wanyan stopped and took a look at the three women. "Cult Master, this maiden seems unfamiliar, may I ask who she is?" "An old acquaintance." "You guys are shopping?" "I didn't want to come out, but what could I do when Fatty Wei, Qing Hong, and the rest forced me to go out, saying that we should meet the local events and customs," Chen Wanyan said helplessly. After he was done, he brought everyone into the fair. Long Jianan then brought Qin Mu and the rest to the port. In the fair, Chen Wanyan's face sunk, and he said swiftly, "Cult Master is in danger." Wei Yong, Yu Qing Hong, and the rest were stunned, not understanding what he meant. Chen Wanyan said solemnly, "The weapons on the Cult Master's body were missing. They never leave his body, yet now they were gone. Also, the hairpin on Junior Sister Sai's back, the spirit weapons on the princess were also missing. There's definitely something wrong with that woman. Go inform the Crown Prince, I shall track them down." Wei Yong, Yu Qing Hong, and the rest finally understood the severity of the matter and immediately returned to the city lord's manor. Chen Wanyan in the meantime left the fair while thinking to himself, "That woman looks somewhat familiar, I seem to have seen her before. I wonder who she is." Long Jianan brought Qin Mu and the rest to the port and boarded a ship. "Set sail." The ship immediately sailed toward the East Sea. Behind them, Chen Wanyan left a trail before jumping into the sea, sprinting on the surface of the water to follow the ship. The speed of the ship wasn't slow, but he sprinted as if he was flying so he could follow at a steady pace. On the ship, a person said solemnly, "Young sect master, there's someone behind." Long Jianan came to the aft of the ship and was slightly stunned when she saw Chen Wanyan stepping on the waves. Just an imperial scholar. Does he really think he can defeat the Dragon King in the sea? She executed her whistle, and there was a strange change. Not long later, satiny sea snakes that were over 30 yards long appeared from beneath the water and swam rapidly toward the scholar. Chen Wanyan was astonished, and flying swords flew out from the sword sack on his back, slaying the sea snakes that came pouring over. The area in which he was fighting instantly seemed like it was boiling water that was overflowing from the pot. Countless flood dragon-like sea snakes broke through the water and attacked him frantically. When Chen Wanyan had slaughtered his way out of the ambush of the sea snakes, the ship had vanished without a trace. He rose into the sky and stood in the air to look around. As he looked at the jade ripples of the huge sea in a radius of 10,000 miles, he couldn't find where that ship had gone to. Crap! Chen Wanyan's expression turned grave. On the ship, Long Jianan didn't restrict the movements of Qin Mu and the rest, letting them wander around and watch the ship going further and further into the depths of the sea. Qin Mu raised his head and saw the sky high above and the deep sea below. There was no way to leave a trace on the surface of the sea. He was full of excitement and spread open his paper to start painting at the bow of the ship. Long Jianan came over to have a look and saw that he was drawing the sea. There were perilous waves and dark clouds sweeping everything away. The ship traveled with the wind and the waves while lightning flashed in the darkness outside, brightening the place for an instant. There was a peculiar artistic mood to this painting which made people feel like they were in that painting. "I didn't expect Cult Master Qin's painting skills to actually be not bad," Long Jianan praised. "If you went to the capital to sell your art for a living, you should be able to achieve the reputation of a distinguished and accomplished scholar." A boatman at the side walked over with an executioner blade and waved it near Qin Mu's neck while chuckling. "What a pity this heavenly devil cult master is about to die, yet he still has the mood to scribble." Long Jianan sneered, "Old Ghost 3, before my father orders him to be killed, he is still a guest invited by our Dragon Rider sect, give some respect." Ling Yuxiu's eyes lighted up, and she came over to see Qin Mu's painting while giving a secret glance to Cai Yunxiang. Qin Mu seemed to be not satisfied with the painting and placed the finished painting aside to start on another piece. It contained wind, rain, lightning, and perilous waves once more, but there was no ship this time. Long Jianan was originally watching with keen interest, but when she saw Qin Mu drawing the same kind of paintings over and over again, the freshness of the sight faded away. She walked away herself, leaving only Xiao Hong to remain on Qin Mu's ear. Qin Mu painted a few more paintings of the storm on the sea. Then, he raised his brush as if to add a few finishing touches to the paintings. As he laid down his first stroke, the painting seemed to become slightly different. The storm inside seemed to be flying out. Qin Mu added a final stroke to the dozens of paintings and threw them off the ship without extra trouble. Long Jianan sighed in pity to herself when she saw this sight. With his hands behind his back, Qin Mu looked towards Long Jianan with a smile. "I've heard that there are strong wind and waves on the sea, so I wonder if Sister Long's ship will be able to handle the turbulence." Long Jianan sneered, "The weather is all clear now, so about what wind and waves are you speaking?" Just as she said that, the wind suddenly grew stronger, becoming a gale from a breeze in just a matter of a few breaths' time. The sky then turned dark, and the gale erupted. The height of the wave surpassed the mountain tops, throwing the ship into the sky before it went crashing down. Everyone on the ship was caught off guard and hurried to stabilize themselves. However, bolts of lightning crackled and struck at random. Amid the chaos, Qin Mu flicked Xiao Hong, who was hanging on his ear, away. Just as the small red snake flew out and was about to reveal its true form, several hundred bolts of lightning gathered together and struck its body with a world-shaking bang. Long Jianan was shocked when she saw the small red snake falling into the sea. There were countless bolts of lightning striking the area where the small red snake had fallen. It finally revealed its true form in the seawater, but it was continuously electrocuted by countless bolts of lightning, turning its body numb and making it sink to the bottom of the sea. Where did the storm come from? Why does it only strike Xiao Hong? Long Jianan's heart was flustered, and she looked around, but only saw pitch-black darkness. This made a weird feeling rise up in her heart. This situation looks very similar to his paintings. Qin Mu's left hand grabbed onto Cai Yunxiang while his left took hold of Ling Yuxiu. The three of them then jumped into the pitch-black sea. Long Jianan cried out in astonishment, and the ship under her feet suddenly split into 5 pieces, throwing everyone on board into the sea. Right at this moment, she saw another ship sailing over from the fierce waves, and Qin Mu, Ling Yuxiu, and Cai Yunxiang were standing on the bow of that ship. The young cult master waved at her, and the ship sailed into darkness, vanishing without a trace. Long Jianan immediately gave chase, but a huge mountain-like wave came crashing onto her, submerging her in the water. She grunted and broke out, but just as she leaped into mid-air, countless bolts of lightning came bombarding down, and they all focused on her body, turning her tender on the inside, crisp on the outside. Long Jianan did everything she could to fight back against the lightning, when it suddenly vanished and the wind stopped. The sea became dead calm. Long Jianan was totally drenched and stood on the surface of the water miserably. Looking around, she saw ink gradually dispersing in the sea. A huge red python swam to her side, its body covered in injuries. An icy cold feeling swept across Long Jianan's heart as she looked around. The boatmen on the ship had died in this abrupt disaster, with Old Ghost 3 having died the most miserably among them. Was this peril of the sea drawn by Cult Master Qin? Long Jianan was still in slight disbelief. Qin Mu and the 2 girls stood at the bow of the ship that soon dispersed and turned into a pool of ink which vanished into the sea. The 3 of them mobilized their vital qi and landed on the water's surface. Up ahead, they saw an island. Long Jianan brought us into the depths of the East Sea, so it'd be quite difficult for us to return to River Prefecture by the sea, it would exhaust us to death. Thus, Qin Mu suggested, why don't we go over there to rest first? Chen Wanyan is very smart and should have already informed the Crown Prince. With Fan Yunxia's ship, it won't be difficult for them to find us. When the 3 of them came onto the island, numerous small humans in yellow suddenly came out running from the forest. They wielded knives, forks, staffs, and cudgels while rushing forward aggressively. However, when they came in front of them, these small humans all stopped in their footsteps and looked up at them in terror. Giants, one of them shrieked at the top of his lungs. This army immediately dispersed and escaped in all directions. These small humans were only a foot tall. Some of them hid in the crevices of the rocks, some under the sand, some went under the leaves, while others just decided to play dead on the ground when they couldn't find any place to hide. They stuck their tongues out and opened their eyes wide. So many Solomon's seals. Cai Yunxiang was astonished. They are Solomon's seals that have turned into spirits. They can be eaten and would help in raising the cultivation by a great amount. The giants are going to eat us. One of the Solomon's seal that had been playing dead rolled over and jumped to his feet. He immediately began running after turning around, but only to crash into a tree and faint. This video is end here. Like the video and subscribe to my channel.